The manhwa kicks off with the main character explaining that 3 days have passed since the strange phenomenon that pulled him into the novel he wrote. It's not just a dream or a random event, it's possession, something straight out of a webtoon, except now he's living it firsthand. Despite the bizarre situation, he's still in his own body. He rubs his eyes furiously, hoping to snap out of it, but the glowing character information screen hovering in front of him refuses to disappear. We learn his name. Larson Maiden. He's now living as a character from his novel. A minor supporting character destined for tragedy. In 9 years, his own brothers are set to kill him. On the first day, Larson wakes up in a cold sweat, screaming. A maid rushes in, trembling, and immediately drops to her knees, apologizing as if her life depends on it. She starts bashing her head into the floor, claiming she's committed a crime worthy of death. Confused and disoriented, Larson stares at her, wondering who she is. She doesn't look Korean or Western, so he demands to know where he is. His sudden movement frightens her, and she panics, begging him not to hit her. Before he can calm her down, she faints. All he did was stand up. The second day begins with Larson finally accepting that his name is no longer Cha Sung-min. He meets a boy named Hampton, who dutifully records his daily activities. When Larson questions him about this odd practice, Hampton nervously explains that in noble families, every movement of their heirs is documented starting from age 14. Larson watches him fumble, and Hampton, clearly overwhelmed, spills ink all over the logbook. Apologizing profusely, Hampton scrambles to clean up the mess, but Larson's body moves on its own. He kicks the boy in the face. It's not his intention, but it feels like his body has its own reflexes. As the day progresses, Larson starts recovering memories of his new life. At 4 years old, he beat the servants with a toy stick. Hampton, as it turns out, was one of his victims. At 5, he discovered he was born to a maidservant and began resenting his status. By 7, his cruelty peaked. He spat in his mother's face, showing her no respect. His terrible behavior didn't stop there. At 8, he attacked a little girl named Rosalind, the 6-year-old daughter of a prominent martial arts family, with a stick. He even bragged about it afterward. This stunt forced his father to bow and apologize to her influential family. Shortly after, Larson was banished to a remote mansion. Even now, his memories reveal just how horrible a person Larson was. Recently, he threw a tantrum over chocolate. The odd thing is, Larson's new memories don't match what Cha Sung-min originally wrote. He never gave this much depth to Larson's backstory, and yet, here it all is, filling in gaps he never intended. By the third day, Larson accepts the truth. This is his new reality. He reflects on his novel's plot. Larson was a minor character, with little detail about his looks or abilities. The readers barely noticed him, and he was never described as having any exceptional traits. He was supposed to die at 17. However, one trait stands out. His untapped talent for martial arts. Though it was never used in the story, it exists now, which might be his saving grace. Determined to survive, Larson starts planning. He has 8 years until his brothers kill him, and in the meantime, he can work on creating a future. But there's a bigger problem. The novel's protagonist, Cassin Shade. Cassin is destined to clash with the Maiden family because of a dark secret. Years ago, the Maidens accidentally killed the firstborn son of the Shade family, sparking a feud that spiraled into war. Since the novel's title revolves around the Shades, they inevitably win, and the Maiden family is destroyed. Larson knows the odds are stacked against him, but he also has one advantage. He's the creator of this world. He knows every plot twist, every moment of plot armor the protagonist has, and he plans to use all of it to his benefit. For now, he resolves to live better than his original self ever could. After all, he's only got one life to live, and with his golden bloodline and martial arts talent, he might just find a way to survive. If he can deal with the fact that he's a walking rat with a ticking clock, there's still a chance to turn things around. The scene continues with Larson noticing the status window again. This time, it reveals that he's activated something called the Heavenly Eye. Larson freezes, shocked. That ability belongs to Cassin, the protagonist of his novel. If he has this power, it means the status window he's seeing is the Heavenly Eye. But why would he, a supporting character, possess such a crucial ability? He explains that Cassin's Heavenly Eye is an overpowered skill in the story, a key feature in what he calls a Munchkin min-maxer fantasy novel. Cassin wasn't just strong, he had the power to obliterate the planet and, if he felt like it, the universe too. Larson's unease grows as he recalls that this same power is what eventually led to the destruction of the Maiden family. Looking down, Larson notices a faint ring around his heart, something he describes as the first circle. In his story, circles are a manifestation of mana gathered around the heart, used as fuel for magic. Normally it takes immense time and effort to achieve even the first circle, and someone like Larson, who never trained in magic, shouldn't have it. Yet here it is, fully formed, seemingly on its own. A knock on the door interrupts his thoughts. He assumes it's Hira, and his suspicions are confirmed when the maid enters, kneeling immediately. The sight reminds Larson of the suffocating rules he set up for his servants. Annoyed by his past self's strictness, he tells her she should kneel only when necessary. As he looks at her, another status window appears, and Larson is stunned to see that Hira has a talent for assassination. This makes no sense, he never wrote this detail into her character. Someone must have planted her as an assassin, even in this remote mansion. Larson realizes the implications. His life is still in danger. He forces himself to smile, knowing that if Hira senses his fear or sees an opening, she might strike. Despite his suspicions, the heavenly eye tells him her trembling, and tears are real, though he's not entirely convinced. To buy time, he orders her to fetch him some chocolates, and leave him alone. Outside the room, Hira hesitates, sensing something unusual. She's noticed a shift in Larson over the past few days. His demeanor feels entirely different, almost like he's a new person. She floats down the hallway, her movements deliberate, like a predator silently observing its prey. Back in the room, Larson gathers his thoughts. His banishment to this mansion has all but destroyed his chances of being a successor, leaving him at the bottom of the family hierarchy. Even so, his every move is still monitored. The Maiden family, in his own story, plays the role of villains, and Larson decides to change his approach. To survive, he'll behave like a decent person, at least on the surface. With the heavenly eye, and his knowledge of the story's future, he knows where crucial artifacts are located. If he plays his cards right, he might just survive the succession war. A moment later, Hira returns, apologizing for failing to find the chocolate. As she kneels again, claiming she's committed a crime worthy of death, Larson cuts her off mid-sentence. Forcing himself to stay in character, he coldly tells her to leave. The maid, stunned by his uncharacteristic indifference, leaves the room, questioning what just happened. This isn't the same Larson who would normally throw a fit over chocolate. She resolves to observe him more closely before reporting anything unusual. The story jumps ahead 1 week. Larson orders Hampton to prepare for something, catching the boy off guard. "What for?" Hampton asks nervously. Larson smirks, repeating his command. "They're going to the training building." Over the past week, Larson has thought hard about his situation. If he's going to survive, he must participate in the succession war, and that means training his body and mastering the powers he's gained. Hampton is shocked by the change. Larson, who used to beat him for minor mistakes, now seems focused and driven. It's not just fear anymore. There's a determination in Larson's eyes that's hard to ignore. Hampton recalls that he too has a talent. Poison. A talent he likely developed to protect himself from Larson's unpredictable wrath. In noble families, aides like Hampton are called shadows, devoted servants who assist their masters. Despite everything, Hampton decides to trust Larson and follow him. At the training building, Hampton's heart aches as he watches others ridicule Larson from afar. He knows Larson has done terrible things, but a small part of him hopes this change is real. For now, Hampton chooses to believe in the possibility of redemption. As Larson steps into the training facility, he's immediately struck by its modern design. A surprising feature in this fantasy world. He mutters to himself that his half-baked world building must have left some oddities, but at least it's comforting to see something familiar. Inside he meets Noah, the administrator of the facility's leaf building. Noah introduces himself politely, but Larson greets him with an awkward air, remembering that he had slapped Noah a year ago for not bowing low enough. What annoys Larson more is that Noah doesn't seem to remember him at all. Curious, Larson tries to analyze Noah with his heavenly eye, but it fails. That can only mean one thing. Noah is strong. Swallowing his pride, Larson decides to approach him with respect. Larson asks for advice on what kind of training he should begin with, and requests a monster suitable for his age. Noah asks his age, and when Larson answers, a sly smile crosses Noah's face. Holding a grudge from the past, Noah suggests a harmless mushroom monster, clearly intending to set Larson up for failure. Larson, oblivious to Noah's motives, agrees to the suggestion. After all, if an unremarkable sixth son, someone barely mentioned in the story, could kill it, how hard could it be? While waiting, Larson focuses on the mana swirling around his heart. To his amazement, he realizes his talent lies in magic combat, and he's already grasping how to use it instinctively. Before long, Noah tells him the preparation is complete. Larson steps into a simulation room resembling a dense mushroom forest. As the door shuts behind him, Noah smirks. He plans to use this moment to humiliate Larson, finally settling the score for the slap a year ago. Inside the forest, Larson spots the mushroom monster. It's a tiny, bouncing creature that looks anything but threatening. Confident, Larson charges his fist with mana. Watching as a status window pops up, confirming that his magic combat technique has activated. He feels the magic circle inside him shift as his body prepares for the fight. Outside, Noah watches intently, recalling his own past as a magic prodigy before joining the Maiden family. Today, he'll have his revenge. What Larson doesn't know is that this particular mushroom monster is at the highest difficulty level. Its physical resistance makes it almost impervious to low-level attacks, and Larson's technique lacks elemental attributes, meaning he shouldn't stand a chance. But as Noah watches, his smirk fades into shock. Larson's glowing fist punches straight through the monster, destroying it in one blow. Larson is just as surprised. That was easy, he mutters, as a status window updates his technique. He feels a surge of power in his heart, noting a new ability called weight utilization has been imprinted on his circle. Meanwhile, Noah is struggling to process what he just witnessed. Larson's technique, though pure magic-based, somehow delivered devastating physical damage, something that shouldn't be possible against a physically resistant monster. Trying to regain his composure, Noah tells Larson he'll increase the difficulty. Larson, still absorbing what just happened, hesitates. He admits he's running low on mana but agrees, curious about the challenge. Noah assures him it won't be much harder, though secretly he's gathering information for his report. He tells himself he'll stop the training if it becomes dangerous. A second mushroom monster appears, this one slightly different in color. Larson braces himself as the creature attacks with sudden speed. He narrowly dodges and blocks its follow-up strike. Commenting on its predictable movements, Larson decides to use his abilities. He grabs the monster, imbuing his hand with mana. Though he's running low, he hits it anyway. Time seems to slow as he lands the blow, his heavily eye deactivating in the process. He makes a mental note to analyze what just happened once he's recharged his mana. Outside the simulation, Hampton watches in awe. He wonders if Larson has secretly been training, as his movements seem far too refined for someone untrained. Even Noah is stunned, questioning how Larson could display such strength before undergoing his 10th year ceremony, a milestone that typically unlocks a successor's full potential. Hampton, overcome with emotion, believes Larson must have been training in secret. Tears well up as he rushes forward and hugs him. Taken aback by the sudden attention, Larson realizes he's caused a scene and decides to fake faint to avoid further scrutiny. Noah quickly orders Hampton to fetch a healing mage. The healer arrives, surprised to learn it's the 7th son, not the 6th, who needs assistance. Examining Larson, the mage concludes that if his injuries are from a technique's side effects, they'll be difficult to heal. Deciding to go through the motions, the mage casts a healing spell, but expects no results. To his shock, Larson opens his eyes and thanks him. The room falls silent. Everyone stares, stunned by Larson's uncharacteristic gratitude. Noah, Hampton, and even the healer can't believe what they're seeing. The scene opens with Hera out of breath, bringing chocolates to Larson. She apologizes nervously, saying she could only find 2. Larson reassures her it's fine and tells her to leave them and go. He doesn't want to keep tormenting her and adds that he's tired from training. Hera exits the room, visibly shocked when Hampton mentions that Larson had gone to train earlier. Back in his room, Larson eats the chocolates, noting he doesn't normally enjoy them, but finds these oddly comforting. As he eats, he activates his heavenly eye and notices something strange. The chocolate's energy is spreading through his body. To his surprise, the chocolates are replenishing his mana. He reflects on how mages in this world usually have to endure harsh conditions to absorb mana from their surroundings, yet he's gaining it effortlessly. This discovery hints at a unique constitution he wasn't aware of, something he hadn't written into Larson's character. However, the side effect of this free mana seems to be weight gain. He wonders what connection this has to his newly gained flow slowly talent. A knock interrupts his thoughts. The door opens to reveal Carlin, Larson's older brother, whose rude demeanor instantly puts Larson on edge. Carlin, whom Larson fears deeply, wastes no time asserting dominance. He sneers, demanding Larson crawl and kneel like a bug. Suddenly, Larson's flow, slowly talent activates, allowing him to see Carlin swing in slow motion. Testing his newfound ability, Larson deflects the attack, sending Carlin's weapon flying. This infuriates Carlin, who screams threats and begins channeling mana, forming water around his fist. Larson notes droplets forming on Carlin's body and quickly disrupts the water formations before they can fully materialize. In a flash, Larson appears behind Carlin, then back in front, delivering a powerful blow to his stomach. Carlin coughs up blood and collapses, groaning in pain. Panicking, Larson shouts for Hampton to fetch a healing mage. When Hampton arrives, Larson repeats the order urgently, and Hampton rushes off. Larson takes a moment to reflect. He recognizes he may have gone too far, but also learned an effective method for dealing with mages. The next day, Hera and Hampton discuss the incident. Hera is stunned to hear that Larson defeated Carlin. Hampton, looking serious, reveals he's actually Larson's shadow. Hera isn't surprised, stating that everyone except Larson knows this. Hampton points out that she, too, is not an ordinary maid. They both acknowledge each other's unique positions, and Hampton asks if she still thinks Larson is just a scoundrel. Hera brushes off the question, urging him to keep talking. Hampton theorizes that Larson's behavior might be tied to the upcoming ceremony. He speculates that Larson has been hiding his abilities all this time. He explains that Larson's mastery of the first circle couldn't have developed overnight, and that Larson's previous behavior may have been an act to stay under the radar. He insists that Larson's sudden changes show a future worth following. If Larson dies, both he and Hera will likely be abandoned. Hampton proposes they work together to ensure Larson survives. Hera agrees to consider his points if Larson visits the library, explaining that it's critical for maiden family members in the succession war to study there and develop strategies. The story shifts to Larson outside the library, marveling at its immense size. He wonders how many books it holds when a mysterious voice answers. Around 200,000. Startled, Larson looks around and sees a rainbow-colored aura. From it, a woman appears and introduces herself as Evian, the librarian. Larson is intrigued but wary of Evian. He activates his heavenly eye to analyze her and learns her real name is Larvian, a name he recognizes immediately. She introduces herself formally, and Larson recalls her infamous reputation. Larvian is one of the highest-ranking mages, known for slaughtering a lord and his knights, turning them into icicles, and freezing their entire castle. Her actions in the future lead to disaster, making her a wanted criminal. Larson can't hide his surprise. Why would someone like her be working as a librarian? And why is she just standing there, staring at him? The scene begins with Evian offering Larson some tea, suggesting black tea specifically. Larson agrees, even though he doesn't like it, figuring it's better to play alone. As she disappears to prepare it, he reflects on how lucky he is that this is his first time in the library. Who knows what chaos the original Larson might have caused here? When Evian returns, she asks why he's here. Larson requests a basic book on mana cultivation. She raises an eyebrow, questioning why he'd need something so elementary. Larson responds that it's better to be safe than sorry, a phrase that seems to confuse her. She retrieves the book using magic, floating it over to him effortlessly. Larson takes it and dismisses her, saying he'll handle things from here. Alone with the book, Larson dives in. It describes mana as the fundamental energy present in all of nature. To become a mage, one must first form a ring of mana, a process that requires understanding complex equations. Larson quickly finds himself lost in the technical jargon. For a basic book, this feels more like advanced quantum physics. He activates his heavenly eye to make sense of it, which shows a completion rate of 5%. This ability, while powerful, highlights his current struggle. It's no match for Cassin's mastery. Still, Larson is amazed at how quickly the heavenly eye is processing the information, and he wonders what will happen when it reaches 100%. Satisfied for now, he decides to stop and focus on his mana issues another day. The scene shifts back to the mansion, where Hampton informs Larson of a visitor. Lady Soso, his mother. Larson is stunned. Her sudden appearance feels unexpected, and it stirs up memories of his past life. He recalls how much he missed his own mother, especially during her final days in the hospital. Emotion wells up as he notices how much Lady Soso resembles her. However, his joy is tempered by concern. He spots the early signs of the blue dot illness, a mysterious and incurable disease marked by 3 blue dots. She currently has only one. As they sit down for tea, Larson struggles with guilt, remembering how the original Larson treated her. Tentatively, he calls out to her, unsure how to start. Watching from the sidelines, Hiro wonders if Larson's kind demeanor is just another act. Then, to everyone's shock, Larson apologizes. His voice trembles as he admits his past mistakes and says he's come to his senses. Lady Soso, equally shocked, responds cautiously, her voice cracking as she simply says, "Is that so?" Larson continues, pouring out his regrets. But she remains guarded, giving short, polite answers. Her tone reveals her hesitance. Years of abuse have made her wary of his sudden change. Before leaving, she excuses herself, claiming she has work to do, though Larson knows it's a lie. She hasn't been a maidservant for a long time. Alone, Larson reflects on the blue dot illness. Once 3 dots appear, the disease becomes incurable. He vows to find a way to help her while she still has a chance. Outside the room, Lady Soso breaks down in tears. She wonders why she's crying on what should be a happy day. Her son, for the first time, has called her mother. Later, Larson stops her before she leaves and asks if she'd be willing to spend an hour with him every day. He suggests they drink tea together, knowing the tea has potential healing properties that could help with her illness. Touched by his sincerity, she agrees. Larson silently wishes for her health, determined to protect her. That night, Lady Soso lies awake, wondering if this is all just a dream. Her son's transformation feels too good to be true. She calls out to an unseen presence, sharing what happened and questioning if someone else is listening. A nearby candle flickers in response. The next day, Larson calls Hera for a private conversation. Nervous, she wonders if he's discovered her secret identity or plans to give her an assassination order. To her surprise, he simply asks for more of those special chocolate. Relieved but slightly irritated, she waits for him to say something important, only for him to request more sweets. Disappointed, she leaves. An hour later, Larson stares at a literal mountain of chocolates in front of him. Giving in to temptation, he devours them, noticing that the quality of the chocolate affects how much mana it restores. Larson realizes that sweets from a particular bakery also provide mana due to a shared ingredient. Curious, he calls for Hampton and orders him to fetch the baker immediately. 30 minutes later, the baker stands before Larson, trembling. Rumors about Larson's violent past have left him terrified. The baker assumes he's in trouble and begins apologizing profusely. Larson quickly reassures him, saying he hasn't done anything wrong. Instead, Larson demands the recipe for the sweets, wanting to know every ingredient. The baker nervously shares the recipe for his sweets. Larson immediately recognizes the key ingredient: the 1,000-year herb. Realizing this herb is what allows him to absorb so much mana, Larson becomes determined to incorporate it into his diet. The scene shifts to the training hall, where Noah hears from a healer that Larson beat up Carlin. Noah is stunned, calling Larson a lunatic, and wonders when he became so powerful. The mage speculates that Larson's sudden growth might be tied to the upcoming ceremony. Noah, however, remains skeptical. He points out that no matter how fast Larson improves through combat techniques, there are limits. Without mastering elemental spells, Larson will struggle to surpass the Grendels, the family known for their magic prowess. Despite this, Noah can't ignore Larson's unexpected rise. Back with Larson, he experiments with eating the 1,000-year herb. Unlike chocolate, which caused him to gain weight, the herb has no caloric downside. Instead, it boosts his mana reserves. Using his heavenly eye, Larson begins rapidly increasing his strength. Over the next 3 days, he processes the magical book he borrowed, reaching a significant milestone. Suddenly, a notification appears. A secret page from the Great Sage Alberto's technique has been unlocked. Intrigued, Larson wonders who the Great Sage is but realizes he'll need to revisit the library to learn more. A task he dreads due to Evian's unsettling presence. As Larson mulls this over, we see Hera silently observing him from the ceiling. The scene cuts to the library, where Larson nervously searches for Evian. She jump scares him, causing him to nearly drop the book he's returning. After she magically stores it away, she asks if he's looking for anything else. Larson hesitantly mentions the Great Sage Alberto's book. Evian warns him it's incomprehensible, but he insists he only wants to look at it for fun. Evian suddenly starts sniffing him, likening the moment to a predator assessing its prey. Larson awkwardly pulls out a chocolate bar, asking if that's what she smells. When he offers it to her, she initially declines, but then snatches it quickly, pretending she's being forced to accept it. Larson, baffled by her behavior, tries to leave but wonders how she'd react to a compliment. On impulse, he tells her she's welcome to visit the mansion for more chocolate, and he'll let Hera know. As he walks away, he thinks to himself that he hopes she doesn't actually come. Later, Larson begins reading the Great Sage's book, but it's less exciting than he anticipated. The text is filled with bizarre claims, making the process slow and tedious. He's 42% through the book, but the unpredictability of its content frustrates him. Outside, Hyra and Hampton observe Larson running laps. Hampton comments on Larson's recent changes, while Hyra notes that his workout doesn't seem normal. Suddenly, Evian appears behind them, explaining that Larson is melting mana by exercising. Both are startled by her sudden presence. When Hampton asks if they should tell Larson, Evian says there's no need. Hampton, realizing her rank as a high-ranking mage, grows uneasy since librarians are supposed to remain neutral in the succession war. Evian remarks on how different Larson is from the and Hyra nervously offers her chocolate, recalling Larson's instructions. She expects Evian to be insulted, but instead, Evian eagerly takes the chocolate, leaving Hyra confused. Hyra begins to wonder what exactly happened between Larson and Evian. 3 days later, Larson finishes analyzing the Great Sage's book. As he absorbs the final contents, an intense sensation brings him to his knees. His heart feels like it's about to explode. Panicked, Larson realizes he must read the mana flow with his heavenly eye to avoid fatal errors. He's shocked to discover that misinterpreting the book could kill him. With sheer focus, he manages to engrave the teachings into his mind. The knowledge reveals a backstory of the world that was previously hidden to him. Larson begins to understand the unpredictability of this world, and Evian's strange behavior. It's revealed that she has an intense love for chocolate. This jogs a memory of Larson's past life, where he once watched a friend's son scribble nonsense into a backstory notebook. Now, Larson realizes that even absurd details can have meaning. Suddenly, a voice interrupts his thoughts. It's useless for someone like you to concentrate. Larson looks up to find himself surrounded by fire. Strangely, the flames don't burn. As he scans the area, he sees a mysterious figure emerge from the blaze. The scene opens with Larson being startled by a voice calling out, asking if he has a death wish. Enter Persia, his sister, known for her 3 elemental attributes and her terrifying reputation. Larson immediately wonders why she's here. Persia doesn't waste time, bluntly asking if she should cut him up. We learn she despises weakness and has a gruesome hobby of literally cutting people apart. Persia grows annoyed at Larson's silence, pressing him for a response. He considers apologizing, but quickly realizes that would be the wrong move. It's likely a test. Thinking fast, he explains he wasn't pretending to concentrate, carefully continuing his explanation. Persia laughs, noting that the rumors about his recent changes might be true. Larson, seizing the moment, tells her he's trying to live as a decent person from now on. Persia scoffs, saying it's far too late for that. She summons a fire snake that coils around Larson, taunting him that when something is too late, it's really too late. Feeling the heat intensify, Larson keeps his composure. He admits he knows he can't become the patriarch because he understands his limits. Instead, he offers to help someone else claim the position. Intrigued, Persia tells him to keep talking. Larson continues, calling himself an unexpected variable. Persia, unimpressed, questions whether he'd even be useful. He replies that it depends on who chooses to use him. She presses further, asking who he supports, and Larson mentions their sister Ivilia, subtly pointing out that Persia fears her. The fire snake hisses as its heat escalates, making Larson feel like he's about to burn alive. Persia dismisses him as cute for trying but accuses him of talking nonsense. Larson counters firmly, saying he knows she hates lies, and while he may submit to honor, he won't bow to power. The flames vanish. Persia, now amused, calls him an idiot and tosses a ball at his stomach.